people talk about national power, they almost always begin with numbers. How many fighter aircraft a country has, how many ships sail under its flag, how large its defense budget looks on paper. And when India enters that discussion, the conversation usually shifts to what India supposedly lacks. Too few squadrons, slow acquisitions, a military that does not appear as muscular as some of its rivals. But this way of thinking misses something fundamental, because power is not always loud, visible, or easily measurable. Some of the most decisive advantages in history were silent ones, and India possesses one of the most powerful silent advantages in the modern world. Before we move forward, please like, subscribe, and share Strategic Vanguard, and be up to date with the latest news and happenings from the world of defense and strategic affairs. Tune into our video channels in Rumble and YouTube. And if you want to hear the audio version, please tune into Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive in Spotify. India's greatest strategic strength is not a particular weapon system or a single doctrine. It is not something that can be unveiled in a parade or advertised in a defense expo. It is structural, geographic, and civilizational. It is embedded so deeply into India's position in the world that it often goes unnoticed, even by Indians themselves. And yet, over the long run, it shapes outcomes more decisively than sheer military numbers ever could. At the heart of this advantage lies geography. India occupies a position that most great powers would envy. It sits at the center of the Indian Ocean region, a space through which an enormous portion of global trade and energy flows. From the Strait of Hormuz to the Malacca Strait, the world's economic arteries pass closer to Indian shores than to almost any other major power. This is not just a matter of maps and distances. It is a strategic reality that creates leverage without confrontation. India does not need to dominate these sea lanes to matter. It merely needs the ability to observe them, understand them, and if absolutely necessary, influence what happens within them. This kind of leverage is subtle, but immense. Control of the seas is difficult, expensive, and politically provocative. Denial, on the other hand, is far cheaper and far more effective. India's geography allows it to focus on denial rather than domination. Even a relatively restrained naval posture, when combined with the right awareness and positioning, creates disproportionate strategic weight. This is why the Indian Ocean has quietly become one of the most sensitive regions in global geopolitics, even when it does not dominate daily headlines. India's geography also offers something else that is rarely discussed: natural defensibility. To the north lie some of the highest mountain ranges on Earth, forming a barrier that has shaped strategy for centuries. These mountains are not impenetrable, but they impose costs, delays, and limitations that cannot be wished away by modern technology. To the west and east are complex borders that pose challenges, but also create strategic depth. And to the south lies open ocean, which historically has favored defenders far more than attackers. Taken together, India is not an easy country to coerce, invade, or overwhelm quickly. Modern warfare has introduced new domains, from cyberspace to outer space, but it has not abolished geography. Logistics still matter, supply lines still matter, distance still matters, and geography still rewards those who understand how to use it. India's physical position forces any adversary to think carefully, plan extensively, and accept high costs before even contemplating serious escalation. That alone acts as a powerful deterrent. Another pillar of India's silent advantage is its strategic temperament. India does not panic easily. In a world increasingly driven by instant reactions and performative escalation, this quality stands out. India does not rush to mobilize forces for the sake of appearances. It does not escalate rhetorically to satisfy domestic or international audiences. It does not redraw doctrine every time a crisis appears on television screens. This frustrates commentators who look for dramatic responses, but in strategic terms, it is a strength. Restraint is often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, restraint creates predictability, and predictability stabilizes deterrence. India consistently signals that it will respond when required, but that it will do so on its own terms, at a time and place of its choosing. This uncertainty about thresholds, combined with certainty about resolve, creates discomfort for adversaries who rely on pressure tactics and brinkmanship. Silence, in such cases, becomes a strategic tool rather than an absence of will. India's ability to maintain strategic autonomy further reinforces this advantage. In today's world, many major powers are constrained by rigid alliances and ideological blocs. They are often compelled to take positions or participate in conflicts that do not directly serve their long-term interests. India, by contrast, retains the ability to engage widely without being trapped. It can cooperate without aligning, disagree without becoming hostile, and hedge without provoking unnecessary confrontation. This flexibility gives India options, and in geopolitics, options are power. The freedom to maneuver diplomatically allows India to adapt to changing circumstances without appearing inconsistent or unreliable. It also prevents adversaries from boxing India into predictable patterns of behavior. Strategic ambiguity, when managed carefully, is not confusion, it is leverage. India's military doctrine reflects this same mindset. It is fundamentally defensive, but it is not passive. India does not seek conflict, but it prepares for it seriously. Its focus is on deterrence, sustainability, and escalation control, rather than on dramatic first-strike doctrines. The underlying assumption is simple. Wars are rarely short, clean, or decisive, and the side that prepares for endurance often prevails. This approach is shaped by history as much as by analysis. India has learned, through experience, that reckless aggression invites long-term costs. At the same time, it has demonstrated that when its core interests are threatened, it is willing to impose punishment in ways that matter. This balance between caution and resolve is difficult to achieve, but once established, it becomes a powerful strategic asset. Perhaps the most underestimated component of India's silent advantage is time. India is not in a hurry. Demographically, economically, and industrially, India is still on an upward trajectory. Its institutions are still evolving. Its strategic reach is still expanding. Unlike some rivals who face demographic decline or economic stagnation, India has the luxury of thinking in decades rather than in crisis cycles. Time favors those who do not overextend. It weakens strategies based on intimidation and pressure. Sanctions lose effectiveness as economies diversify. Threats lose credibility when escalation benefits the defender more than the attacker. India's patience is not passive waiting. It is active endurance. It allows India to absorb shocks, learn from mistakes, and gradually strengthen its position without triggering unnecessary confrontation. This long-term outlook is reinforced by an unusual degree of strategic continuity. Despite changes in government and political rhetoric, India's core strategic instincts have remained remarkably consistent. Protect sovereignty, preserve autonomy, avoid entanglements that limit freedom of action, expand influence quietly and steadily. This continuity ensures that long-term projects survive short-term disruptions and that institutional memory is not discarded every few years. Many states suffer from strategic amnesia, constantly resetting priorities and doctrines. India does not. This makes it difficult for adversaries to judge how far India is willing to go in any given situation. Uncertainty about red lines, combined with confidence that some lines do exist, strengthens deterrence far more effectively than loud declarations ever could. The reason India's advantage remains largely unspoken is simple. It does not fit neatly into modern media narratives. Geography does not trend on social platforms. Restraint does not make for dramatic visuals. Patience does not translate into catchy slogans. But history is clear on one point. Wars are not won by hype, and power is not always visible in peacetime rankings. India's advantage works precisely because it is understated. It avoids provoking arms races unnecessarily. It allows India to shape its environment without drawing excessive attention. It creates space to grow stronger, while others exhaust themselves chasing short-term dominance. In strategic terms, this is not accidental, it is intelligent. Looking ahead, India does not need to dominate the world to secure its interests. It does not need to match any rival ship for ship or jet for jet. What it needs is far more subtle and far more achievable. Secure its maritime approaches, maintain control over escalation, preserve strategic autonomy, and allow time to compound its advantages. If India continues on this path, it does not merely remain relevant, it becomes indispensable. And in geopolitics, being indispensable is more powerful than being feared. Fear creates resistance. Indispensability creates influence. So the next time India is described as slow, hesitant, or cautious, it is worth remembering that the most dangerous players in history were often those who did not appear dangerous at first glance. India's greatest strategic advantage is not its weapons, its alliances, or its rhetoric. It is its position, its patience, and its perspective. That advantage does not shout, it does not posture, it waits.
Thank you for joining us on this strategic Vanguard deep dive. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh deep dives every Wednesday and Saturday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.